All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to our weekend Q&A. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat box here. And we are going to be discussing uh, uh, productivity applications. So I'm looking forward to this. We've been talking about both, Evernote and talking about uh, um, Trello, and I'm going to show you some integration here tonight. And I really want to kind of pick up on, where I left off, last time, right? And really just kind of get into how you'd actually use the two together, right? Because even as a marketer, right, if you if you if you I guess have a lot of PLR. I think I talked about Evernote the last time. One of the things you could actually do is, and I'm going to go through that again tonight, is you really want to try to start thinking about really categorizing it when you store it. And a lot of us are going to be using cloud storage kind of going forward. In fact, I'm going to almost suggest that you try not to use your hard drive as much. It's going to be a lot easier to find. It's going to be a lot easier to categorize if you use cloud storage. So I want to get into that tonight. Of course, I'll take your questions. So if you're in YouTube, please feel free to put your question there in the chat box. I think what I need to do though is I need to put the link here inside of Facebook, and I'm going to do that right now. And so while I do that, if you have any questions, just go ahead and write them there in the chat box. I did get a question from Dana. I'm gonna tackle that question tonight, hopefully. And let's see. Let's just put in here, we are live, and then we really will be live. Okay. I put that in the box, and then let's put it here in my comment. All right, we're good to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. And once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them there in the YouTube chat box. And let's go in. Of course, if you haven't picked up our newest PLR, it's Trello, right? And you can pick that up at the plrshow.com/new, right? Make sure you pick that up probably before Thursday, because we're going to be switching it out. And I'll tell you about what's coming up here at the end of the call, right? And so I'm going to take any questions that you might have about written PLR, any kind of PLR, really. Mostly what I do is video PLR. I try to focus on that. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to write it there in the chat box. It's not Google Analytics. I don't know why that's still there, but let's talk about Evernote and Trello, right? Evernote and Trello. Okay, so Evernote is what I call it's almost verbal, right? How you use it. And so I say I look at Evernote as, if I can find it, I'll use it. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go into Evernote right now, and let me just sign in here. And we've talked about this, right? The power of Evernote is having all of your documents, having all of your files, having all your documents stored, categorized, and linked in Evernote, right? So what you want to try to do, and specifically when it comes to PLR, I suggest that you put your documents, your PLR, your videos, your licenses, your graphics, that you put those in cloud storage and you label them, right? And they don't have to be labeled all that well in the cloud storage, because cloud storage isn't necessarily a great way to search. It isn't very efficient. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to open up Microsoft Microsoft Office. I'll show you. It's not necessarily a very efficient way to search. So if I were to just write in here that I wanted to search, let's say, everything that I had here on Facebook. I want to put together a Facebook product, or maybe I want to put together a Facebook promotion. Now, one of the things it does well is it'll identify, which is a Word file, Excel file, PowerPoint file. But a lot of the stuff that I put in here, I put in here zip files. Okay, so let's say Dana's asking, do you put the zip files in the cloud? Yes, I put them in the cloud. Now, obviously, if I use Microsoft, there's some advantages to leaving it unzipped, but then that makes your I think it makes your drive unwieldy, right? So if I were to try to outline every individual article, I guess I could do that, right? That's one way to do it, right? Especially if you have a lot of written content and you have a lot of Microsoft Word documents, I guess it really would make sense to do it that way, right? So you could do that. But because I have a lot of videos, and sometimes those videos are in zip files, I like to leave it in zip files, and then I like to upload it to the cloud drive, right? But everything really depends on what kind of PLR you have and what kind of files you store the most. And if you store a lot of Microsoft Office documents, it makes sense to have them unzipped, right? That's actually a good question. Okay, so what I like to do here with Evernote, particular, right? And there are a lot of ways to use Evernote, and I'm just talking about how you organize your PLR, right? And so what I like to do here is, you notice here that I've got the Bitcoin PLR PDF guide course, right? So what do I have here? Well, I have a link here to that course in my cloud drive, right? So that's where the link is. What I have done here is I have actually taken the table of contents and I put it in the written note inside of Evernote. Right now, everything really depends on how I decide to name this card or this note. Right now, I named this note Bitcoin PLR PDF guide course because that makes the most sense to me. Right? That makes the most sense to me. You have to name it in a way that's going to make the most sense to you, and it's going to be the most findable. Does that make sense? So if you get that, and you're watching the live chat, please put the number 2 in the live chat box if you could. If I'm making sense to you, at least right now. Okay, so what am I gonna do? I'm going to first store it in my cloud drive. Then I'm gonna grab a link here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a note. I'm gonna create the download link for whatever it is I'm storing. And then what I want to do is I want to identify it as best I can. And so I want to put as much descriptive and identification and identifying information in here as possible. And what I have here are the names of the chapters, right? So what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen? Well, I might put in here, I might go to search, and I might write in here supply and demand. Right? And now you notice that supply and demand is not the title. Supply and demand is one of the titles that I place inside of the document. And so that's why that identifying information is going to be important, because if I was looking for something in my entire universe of stuff and I wanted to get it on supply and demand, and I typed in supply and demand into Evernote to help me to find it, then I would have it if I put that in the note. A lot depends on how you categorize things when you put them in and you make it findable. Now, remember, what we said here at the beginning was Evernote is based on if I can find it, I will use it, right? If I can find it, I will use it. And so you want to make everything in Evernote findable for who? For you. Right now, if you have somebody that you're working with, maybe you have somebody you're outsourcing to, maybe you have somebody that is on your team, you have to make it findable for them, right? So that's really how you have to kind of look at Evernote. Trello, on the other hand, is if I can see it, I'll use it. If I can see it, I'll use it. Let me show you what I mean here. I'm going to grab a Trello board. So if I go, let's go up to the outside here. And I grab this Trello board. Now, what am I trying to do with Trello? I'm trying to make things visual so that I can see what I have in front of me, right? Trello is a visual way of organizing your work for an individual or a team, right? It's a visual way of organizing your work for a visual for an individual or a team. The tendency is, right? The best practice is if you have a process that you organize things from left to right. So in other words, I start with whatever I'm doing, whatever the first step of the process is, I'm going to have that on the left side. Whatever the next step of the process is, I'm going to have that next to the first thing. Whatever the next step in the process is. Now, again, all of these steps can have multiple tasks within them, right? They can have multiple tasks. They can have multiple resources. They can have multiple people involved. But the first, the first organizing principle is typically best practice is you organize from left, the process, to right. Now, you should not have, I don't think, right, in my opinion, if you're going from left to right, you have 37 things going to the right. I don't think that. I think that means then that you want to reorganize and rethink how you look at it. Typically, what you really want to try to do, in my opinion, is you want to try to have everything on one screen in terms of your process, in my opinion. Right, let me show you here. Now, here I've chosen here to have this menu open. Now, if I close that menu, I can see all of my processes for a particular board on one page. And that's really, I think that's really what you want to try to do. And again, I mean, everything's individual, right? Everything is how you see things. But again, it's best practice in how you do it. Right now, what am I trying to do inside of Trello? Well, here's what I'm going to try to do. I want to try to make sure I've given everybody the resources. I've made sure that the people who are going to be responsible for that resource, that they have everything they need and it's all organized. So let's say that in order to be ready for this Google Hangout meeting, I want to have the Bitcoin. And again, I'm picking this because that's the PLR that I'm using, right? So I'm going to say, what we're going to try to do is going to put together a Bitcoin ebook and product, and then I'm going to put in here get the raw PLR. I'm going to add that card. So that's one step in the process. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a due date on that. Right? I'm going to say that's due on Wednesday. I'm going to save that. And then I'm also going to put a checklist of what that means. I'm going to say, a Bitcoin raw PLR components. right? And so I'm going to have here, I'm going to say, get the PDF guide, get the sales, get the sales materials, right? Get the videos, get the mind map, get the cheat sheet. So at this step in the game, I'm telling the person who's going to be responsible for this, this is the stuff that I want you to do for this step, right? So what I'm going to then do is I'm going to say, I'm going to add the member. So whoever's going to be responsible for this, I'm going to add them to this board. I want them to be responsible for this. So I'm going to make them this person, right? The person that's going to be responsible to take care of this, right? So that's making sense so far. Please put the number 3 in the live chat box if you're getting this, right? So basically, I'm managing a task right now that I have outlined, right? So now, what can I do to help this person, right? What can I do to help this person? Well, what I can do though, let's say that this is the person I'm outsourcing to. Let's say this is my virtual assistant. I can help my virtual assistant by making sure that they have access to the file. Right now, let's say I'm the person with the cloud drive. I'm the person where the file is. So I want to make sure I've given that individual everything they need. Right. So how do I do that? Well, in Evernote or in Trello, I can then actually let's go back here for a second. I'm going to close up this card. And what I can do on this board is I can add what's called a power up. And a power up, all a power up is is an integration, right? And so I can integrate with any of these things. Now, there are not a lot of things, but so for instance, I can integrate with Box. I can integrate with Dropbox, right? And I've got Evernote enabled already, right? So Evernote is one of the ways I can interact with a program, right? So let's go back to this card now. So got my checklist. I've got the person responsible for it. So I can help this person though by giving them access to the document. Now, where do I organize my documents? Where do I organize my files? I organize those things in Evernote, right? So I organize them in Evernote. Then what I want to do is I want to attach a note to this card, right? So basically, I'm going to search within Evernote. I'm going to search for Bitcoin, all my Bitcoin PLR. And there's all my PLR. So now what I can do is I can then attach a note to make these things visible. I'm going to make the PDF guide course visible. And so now what that person has to do is they can get the PDF guide. All they've got to do is click the link, and there's the PDF guide. Right. So basically what I'm doing inside of Trello is I'm using the organizing principle of making things visual. Right. Inside of Bitcoin, I'm making them verbal, right? Visual with Trello, verbal with Bitcoin. Right now. So Evernote is based on words, Trello is visual. And actually, if I could restate that, I'd say Evernote's verbal, right? Evernote's verbal, based on words. Trello is visual, right? I'm organizing so I can see it, and I can use it and do it. So again, the first step is going to be to get your files, right? You're going to get your files organized as you can, right? And cloud storage. Now, again, it's really not necessarily super, super, super important that they be that they be super duper categorized in cloud storage, because you're going to take care of the categorization process inside of the area that has the best search, right? The best search, because we can actually tag and notate this best inside of Evernote, right? We're going to tag and notate our link, remember, right? Because what we did was we linked to the cloud storage here, right? So that when the person finds this card and they click the link, right? You're leaving Evernote. So let's go back here. I think I may have taken that down since the course. But basically, you want to link to your cloud storage. Yeah, I think I've since removed the link since the course. Okay, so let's say that I can then let's replace the link there. Let's just say that it's this one. Right? I'm just gonna replace the link. I'm gonna make sure that this link is accessible. Right? And again, you don't have to use Microsoft for this. You can use, whichever one you're most comfortable with, right? So I'm going to edit this link now. I'm going to put that link in there. I'm going to make that the link here. Okay, so again, I want to make sure that this is identifying. I want to make it findable with words on Evernote. So I make it findable with words on Evernote by making sure that every note I have is documented thoroughly, right? And then you make it visible on Trello according to the project, right? What do I mean by that? Well, I want this to be visible, right? And so I make it visible inside of my project, right? Now there's a due date here. There's a person assigned to it. Now this person now knows and can see where they are in the project. I can look at this project and I can tell what kind of progress the person is making. When they get the PDF, they can check this off. When they get the sales material, they can check this off. And when they've done with the task, they can just check the whole thing off, right? And I can look at this pretty much, and I can tell if they've completed it based on what I see. Right? Does that make sense? So if you get that, please put the number 4 in the question box. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Make sure your links are going to be clickable. And what I mean by that is that you want to make sure that you don't have them. You don't want to have your links protected for only your team, right? You need to make sure that they can be accessed by the people who are going to be using that level of Evernote, right? Okay, now if you leave them, and I meant to say insecure, that really means then you've got to be able to trust your teammates, right? So you only want to give access to that, obviously, to somebody that you really trust that's going to be on your team. Right now, I had a question from Dana about the advanced course and about what we went over, and let me kind of talk through what this is about here. And let's see here. Let me size these up. Okay, so the first is kind of on team building, right? And so there are things here such as working with Slack, working with subscriptions, and then the case studies. Now, the only thing that would probably everything else is team oriented, right? So webinars are probably could be used for individuals. Um, Playbooks can probably be used for individuals. Resources for individuals, and then 16 through 20 are all case study oriented, right? So that can be used for individuals or for we say teams, right? Okay. Any questions? Any questions on what we went over tonight? I was able to finally get you out of here in 30 minutes. What do you know about that? Okay, so again, if you don't have Evernote, you can pick that up at the plrshow.com/work smarter with Evernote. Right, you can pick that up there. And if you are watching this and you are not getting our daily newsletter, you can sign up at the plrshow.com, and we talk about PLR every single day. Right, rain or shine. uh, um, Right now, Ultimate Insider is closed to new members, right? So that's not an open program right now. Our Facebook group is at the PLR Show groups, and make sure you're signed up at our YouTube channel. You can subscribe there at youtube.com/gain mindshare. Right, that's all of our training videos. And once again, you can get our newest PLR, which is on Trello at the plrshow.com/new. Right, and we actually have we are doing a promotion with the folks that put out Google Analytic or Google My Business PLR. Right, so we've got a promotion there that we're doing with them, and you can pick that up at superfastactionbonus.com/real life. Because what we did was we put some real life prospecting case studies there, right? So that's why I call it real life. And other than that, on Thursday, we're coming up with going to be Udemy PLR, the Udemy PLR videos, right? So how to get your customers started and creating their own course on Udemy, right? So that's coming up on Thursday. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Anyone have any questions? Well, okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you all. I'm glad to finally get you started at 9 and out at 9:30. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them there in YouTube. I'm going to be doing less on Facebook. I will do my notifications there, and this really has nothing to do with their decision, right? I pretty much decided that at the beginning of 2018 that I'm it's just going to do less there. It's a great place, major distraction, right? So any other questions? Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for being here. Have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.